So yeah, our first guest speaker today is coming all the way from Dallas, is Shayrah Moran, also formerly Shayrah Acres, that some of y'all may know her by from her atheist activism. She's a former Christian blogger who became an atheist activist working on projects such as Secular Market, Atheist Analysis, Secular View, Dogma Debate, and The Nuns. She also has her own YouTube channel called Shayrah. And she's also, in addition to being the campaign manager for Daniel's first political campaign, Shayrah is also pansexual, genderqueer, and the proud parent of a godless child. So please welcome our guest speaker, first guest speaker today, Shayrah Moran.
All right, like he said, I'm Shayrah Moran. It's really fun to be able to say that. I used to be Shayrah Acres, and Daniel and I recently got married on Valentine's Day. So, and we had a really fun little tiny marriage. We actually ended up signing our paperwork in a deli, so we tried to keep it really low key, and we were pretty much married the whole time anyway. But often I'm asked what I do, and it's one of the hardest questions I ever have to answer because there's so much. There's what I do to keep a roof over my head. There are the things that I do to try to make the world a better place. And then there are the things I do that are hobbies. Oh, thank you so much. I can control it from here.
Yes.
Yay.
Do you want to hold one now?
Yeah, sure.
These pictures.
This one. There we go. I'm gonna start here. I don't know if it'll work. There we go. That's me with Wendy Davis. And so it's really hard to say what I do. I consider the political stuff that I do as more of a trying to make the world a better place thing. It does not involve making lots of money. It does not involve really any of the fun things that everybody thinks it does. It's a lot of hard work. You're going around and talking to a lot of people. It's nerve-wracking. It can be very scary.
I have no idea what you're talking about. It's always fun.
It is fun, though. I mean, I'm not trying to say like it's horrible. I actually do enjoy doing it, but it can be very nerve-wracking, and a lot of people think that being a politician is about going and making a ton of money and being cool and powerful, and that's not what it's about. You actually are working your butt off trying to research what's going on, talking to people in the community, making sure that everything is going to be running smoothly for your community. And you have to be in the know. You have to know what it is that you have to do to make the world a better place. But it was really funny when we went to this party in Austin. We had Representative Elliot Neistat, I cannot say his name, and he always makes fun of me about it. We had a representative come up to us who was meeting Daniel, and he's like, "Oh, what do you do? Oh, you ran for District 63. This is really exciting that you're here." This party was really cool. Actually, in the picture, this party, I don't know if you guys recognize these women in this picture, but they were the first women to get married legally in the state of Texas for gay marriage. We got to see them cut their cake. It was really sweet. There's a bunch of people there. It was an intimate party, huge celebration. And being LGBT myself, and same with Daniel, it was like we finally did this, yay Texas. So, but we were at this party, and Elliot, who's on the left here, he approaches me and he asks who I am. And I said, well, I'm Shayrah Moran. Married to Daniel here. We just got married. And he goes, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I'm actually his campaign manager. And he's like, wait a second. So you were his campaign manager and you guys lost and he still married you? And I was like, yes. But this really put forth a really important point. So when it comes to politics, there's a lot of failure. You are going to fail at things. You can mess up things that you say to the press. You can mess up things you say in a speech. You might lose. It's what goes with it. But there's a problem that we have right now today. This was us at Wendy Davis's headquarters. People are going to lose. And we kind of went into this backing Wendy Davis and doing this ourselves, knowing that a lot of us are going to lose. This state is changing. We are going blue. But there's going to be some hardships through here while we're changing over. In our culture today, people are so afraid of failure. Failure is seen as a bad thing. You want to hide it. You don't want to talk to people about losing or about how you might have messed up. But that's what we need to be talking about. Because when we talk about how we failed, we can figure out how we can win. And so the other thing is you have to actually step out of your comfort zone, like I'm doing right now. This is my first time speaking in front of a group, by the way. You have to come out of your comfort zone. You have to take risks. And you have to try and see how you might mess up. And that's going to be practice. You're going to continue to get better at what you do. So I have a story. When I was a little girl, I was about 5 years old. My dad wanted to go down this big spirally slide. And he was trying to get me to go down this big spirally slide. I was always a super cautious child. I was always afraid to take risks. I was bawling my eyes out. We have this on home video. I'm bawling my eyes out and I don't want to go down this really scary slide. I grew up that way. I was always shy. I was always scared. I never wanted to step out of my comfort zone. But I was also raised in a very hardcore Christian household. And at about the age of 5, I was told that I was going to burn forever in hell if I don't ask Jesus into my heart. It scared me to death. And so I had to start stepping out of my comfort zone because I knew that I needed to get other people to follow Jesus. I knew that I needed to be involved at my church. I need to go on the stage and sing so that people can be brought to God. I knew that I needed to go and talk to strangers to get them to follow God. I knew I needed to talk to my friends and get them to come to church with me so they could follow God. And I also got involved with, my mother was in a Christian production studio. I also got involved with the Billy Graham Crusade, and I had to do stuff, I had to do commercials for him. I did a lot of weird sketches. I, at one point in time, dressed up as Delilah, but I was a barber, and I had bubble gum in my mouth, and I was like, hey Samson, you should totally cut your hair. And so, I did some really dorky stuff. I did voiceover work. But a lot of these things that I did during my Christian days, it helped me get out of my comfort zone. And I think it was really good to be able to do that. And I'm really glad that atheists are now coming together to do social groups and get people to have those opportunities to come out of their comfort zone, because we need to start getting used to talking to each other, and we need to start getting used to putting together productions. We need to get used to singing about stuff. We need to get used to being out there. So I'm kind of excited that we're going down that road. Now, what happened to me, at about the age of 23, I became a very hardcore Christian conservative blogger. I used to write about how George W. Bush was too liberal. I wrote about being pro-life. I wrote about how homosexuality was a sin. I had Michelle Malkin blog roll me. I was probably exactly what I would be completely against today. It's taken me about 10 years to get to be this person. And actually this makes sense scientifically, because supposedly after a while your cells completely reform after about 10 years, so I figure I am a completely different person, and I'll just look at it that way. But the really cool thing that happened to me is I decided to show all of these godless liberals how they're going to burn in hell. And that will show them that they need to find Jesus and they need to find conservatism. The problem with that was I did a lot of research because I wanted to be accurate. And through my research, because I had grown up in a Christian household with lots of materials like learning Greek and Hebrew, having concordances, having Bible atlases, there was a problem that popped up. I actually found out there's no hell in the Bible. And that was, it destroyed me. I went through hell with that. Trying to write this piece, I couldn't write it anymore. Then I felt like I couldn't write anything. What else am I wrong about? And so I started researching everything that I thought was the truth. First thing I learned about was evolution. I was very big into intelligent design. I had only studied creation science throughout my early years of life. So when I started actually reading the science behind what evolution actually is, there was another problem. I was wrong about something else. It started to feel good after a while, though. You know, being wrong can actually feel really good. You're like, oh, right, now what else? Like, what else do I need to learn? And the way that I like to describe it is, it's like you have a round hole and a square peg. And you start sanding down those edges and eventually find yourself to be a completely different shape just to fit into what reality is. And that's what happened to me. But I'm really glad this is how I did things, because it gave me the skills and tools to be able to find out what information is true and right and what stuff is completely false. Now, I'm gonna flip this over. So this goes into how Daniel and I got where we are today. After I had figured out that I was really wrong about stuff, I still wouldn't call myself an atheist. I barely called myself an agnostic. I would go back and forth on days saying, oh God, please, blah, 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 and then the next day like, he can't possibly exist. And I started watching YouTube videos. And there was a particular guy who's now a really close friend of mine named Mitch, but he did a bunch of videos talking about Bible stuff. He destroyed the Bible stuff. He showed how ridiculous some of these stories would be, how they couldn't possibly be true, how they contradict one another in the verses. And so once I had completely destroyed this idea that maybe the Bible is true, maybe Jesus was true, I started wanting to be an activist. So my first thing I did was get a camera, a webcam, and I started just talking to my camera. And I started posting videos to YouTube. And I found there was an entire community on YouTube. I met so many awesome people. I've met people that I've managed to hook them up and they've gotten married, they're having babies. My friend just got pregnant again a couple days ago that I met from YouTube. And I also met my husband on YouTube. He was the barking atheist, and we would make videos together. We would start to try to make this world where we could explain to people how they might be wrong. And it got political. We used to talk about atheism all the time. It started getting political. Then we were talking about women's rights. We were talking about church and state separation was probably the most important thing that we would always talk about. And it wasn't enough. It was like we kept on going further and further, and we're like, no, we need to get more involved. There are really big problems. Now, I moved from California to Texas to be with Daniel, and we wanted to do more together. So he got this harebrained idea that we should actually talk to our representatives. I was so scared about this. I was shaking all over. We go to this big mega church, which was supposed to be a town hall. Now, a town hall is supposed to be a place where everyone can come together and talk to their representative, but we're in a huge church. Almost everyone there is clearly a Republican. And the way that they advertised for this town hall was online. It was on this website where it was like primarily Republican geared or Christian geared. So we were already out of place. We went with our friend Dakota, and we were all supposed to ask a question to, what is it, Michael Burgess?
Yes.
Michael Burgess is the representative who, he's a gynecologist, and he tried to talk about how abortion should be banned because he's seen fetuses touching themselves, and so therefore they feel pleasure, and therefore women should not have the right to choose. So we knew we were coming up against someone who maybe wasn't going to be easy to speak to. Daniel actually decided to talk to this guy. I chickened out because I looked around the room and there were scary people everywhere. And I did not want to go and talk to him. But Daniel was standing in that line. Dakota stayed with me too. We both chickened out, so at least I didn't chicken out by myself. Daniel did not care. Daniel was just, I'm gonna present a question to him. And do we have the video on here?
Yes.
So I'm gonna show you guys what Daniel did, because I posted this to the internet and it kind of blew up. But I have a video of Daniel actually talking to our representative.
Good evening, Representative Burgess. My name is Daniel Moran. I'm a junior at the University of North Texas. I'm a political science major. I hope one day possibly be in politics. And I'm
I need sympathy. I said you have to need sympathy. I hope you get hope with that compulsion.
politics is why I'm a major. But anyway, I'm an atheist, and I was wondering how particular atheist, humanist, and non-religious constituents?
Well, you may have heard my comment a moment ago on it. I'm in Washington, D.C., fighting for you every day of the week, whether you vote for me or not, whether you believe as I do or not.
Well, I know I don't believe it's you, but I do know that you recently voted against, twice, to include atheist and humanist chaplains into the armed services.
Yeah, that was a dumb idea. I'll believe it. Yeah, well,
I have many thoughts. Some of them work or not work, but go to school at the Air Force ROTC at the University of North Texas. So they're all atheist and thoughts.
well, good for them, and I appreciate their willingness to serve their country. But look, I mean, you're going to have a chaplain. You got to start somewhere, and that starts with the top of belief in God.
Why is it required?
Every chaplain I've ever had has started at that point.
I'm simply fail to see why it requires going back to basically your friend to your.
I will just say that, I don't know. Anyone who wants to come and talk with me about any issue at any time as you're doing now, fine to do that. But when I go put that voting card, if someone says to vote against your fundamental core beliefs, you got the wrong kid. And if you want to throw me out, that's something.
That was one of the scariest moments of my life. It is not shown very well in the video, but I was sitting out in the audience. People were freaking out. That was the loudest applause you heard the entire time when Burgess was saying those horrible things to us, or about us, I should say, because it was actually towards Daniel. Basically, there were people in there throwing their fists and like, get him out of here! And they were looking over at Dakota and I, and we were like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get beat up outside of this church. And Daniel didn't, he just walked away like, no problem. And I was like, Daniel, you need to get more involved. This stuff does not bother you. And the thing is, I think we got a lot of experience on YouTube. First of all, you deal with trolls. You deal with people that are saying really horrible things about you all the time in the comment section. People would call me ugly. They would say boobs, 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 which is the most ridiculous thing to say. I have my camera up to here and up, and I'm talking about philosophical things like, determinism versus free will, and they're like, show us your boobs. And I'm like, there's so much more going on here. We're trying to talk about and have a conversation. It bothered me. It never got to Daniel. Daniel would get all different kinds of really horrible comments. You're just a kid, you don't know any better. There was some very mean homosexual jokes that were put at him. He didn't care. So it's like, you probably can do this. You can probably represent people. You can probably talk to people and give us a voice. And he decided to go to an IHOP. And there was a Democrat group meeting there, and he just wanted to try to see how he can get more involved because he didn't want this kind of stuff happening anymore. When you have people still saying there are no atheists in foxholes, we have a problem. There's a lot of misinformation going around. So he wanted to get involved, and so there was a bunch of people. Some of these people are some of the candidates that ran in the Dallas area. There was a bunch of people talking about candidates running. And after only one meeting, they really took a liking to Daniel and knew there was no Democrat running in District 63. So Mary Infante, who is pretty much the head, she's not the complete head, but she's pretty much she's the executive director of the Democrat Party in Dallas, but she pretty much heads up a lot of the stuff. At one point in time, when they were getting ready to take the picture of the candidates that are running, she literally pushed Daniel into this picture to run. So Daniel literally got pushed into politics that day. And he was in trouble. He knew he was in trouble because he came home, we were going to the grocery store together, we're in the car, and he's like, I need to talk to you. And I was like, what? What did you do now? And he's like, I think I might be running for office. And I was like, what? I thought you were just going to a meeting to see how we could volunteer and stuff. He's like, but I think I'm going to be running for office. So the immediate conversation that happened next was, can we be open? Daniel and I have been on the internet for way too long talking about atheism. We have been on tons of podcasts. We were on Dogma Debate for, a year? Every week talking about atheism, talking about LGBT rights. Our stuff is out there. People know who we are already. And we were wondering how we were going to be able to run and not hide who we are, because this is Texas, and we're in a very red district. How could we possibly be open about ourselves? But how could we possibly not? They're going to figure it out. So we decided to run completely open. And it actually didn't matter. It mattered that we were doing it and representing. That was the wonderful thing. But it didn't really cause a lot of stir. Democrats don't care. They're very supportive of atheists. They're very supportive of LGBT people. And so we didn't really get any flack. We would go and talk about the issues, and they would support us. So it turned out that it wasn't that big of a deal to be an atheist and run in Texas. And that's what we really wanted to show. That was the most important thing to this campaign, and why we will continue to run, to show people that someone who, you were 20 when you decided to run. He had to be 21 before the election, so he turned 21 in April and the election was in November. You had to be 21, you had to be just on the ballot. You had to either pay $750 to be on the ballot, or you had to get 500 signatures. We raised enough money to get on the ballot because we only had a couple of weeks to get on, because it was last minute. As we said, he was pushed into it. So we managed to round up the $750 to get on the ballot. But we managed to show the world that it's okay in a red district in Texas, as an open atheist, openly bisexual, openly genderqueer person, that you can run. And it doesn't matter your age or your labels. And we're hoping to inspire lots of other people to run. Now, not everybody can run, not everybody can speak. What was really fun, we went to this dinner, and one of our good friends, now he's our good friend, but we just met him at this time, he brought his son to try to push him into politics. And he's like, look, he's young, he's doing politics, you gotta do this, man. He ended up running for town council, and a couple of weeks ago, it was less than a week ago, right?
It was a week ago today.
It was a week ago today. He made it to town council. He was trying to push his son into this, and then he was like, I can do this, and he put himself on the ballot and got it. So we're inspiring lots of people to go ahead and try to get on a ballot. We're inspiring a lot of people to get involved. There are other ways to get involved. I know Daniel's going to cover a whole bunch of that. But I would like to show, this was Daniel at the Gay Pride Parade. We were able to get involved with all different kinds of other groups in our town. And it was really cool because we were able to make this giant web of networks and get everybody involved. And I really think it helped with the vote. We did get more Democrats voting in certain kinds of groups. So this was an awesome way for you to network and get to know all these different groups in your area and find out what other things you might be able to get involved in. And there's the Gay Pride Parade in Dallas too. Which, by the way, the float in the front there, you see, this is Letitia. Do you guys remember Letitia running at all? No? Of course. Well, anyway, she was a very, very important person who was running. And up ahead was this boat of guys in Speedos dancing in sailor suits. And she's like, I don't want to be on your guys' float anymore. I want to go on the float in front of us. So we had a lot of fun. And, there's Sam Houston. Do you guys know who Sam Houston is at all? No?
He ran for Attorney General.
Okay. This was around the moment when Daniel had finally talked me into being the campaign manager. I did not want to do politics either, but Daniel kind of pushed me into it. And I feel like my background in being able to network with people and being able to take risks has really helped him out. I'm also really good at getting the press to pay attention to stories. If you guys are ever planning on running or helping people run, one of the most important things you can do is get to know who is writing stories about stuff when it comes to atheism, when it comes to LGBT issues. Tell them what's going on in your community. You might notice in your news feeds and on Facebook or wherever you look at news, you might see that there's these little tiny stories that are popping up on the internet now in news. these stories are because we can actually contact the press very easily nowadays. You can find out who's writing on stuff and actually message them on Facebook and say, hey, this is an important issue. This kid had this happen at their school, or this thing is going on in my community, and they will start posting about it. And as you can see, that Burgess story, that one blew up all over the place. I mean, it was on the front page of a whole bunch of liberal news sites.
It went to Fox News.
It went to Fox News, they contacted us.
Hannity show, almost.
The Blaze called him a sharp-tongued college student.
Yeah.
So it got all over just because I sent the video to the right person. So you need to be able to inform people of what you're doing, and you need to talk to everybody. And you have to also get involved with your community. This is kind of small, but we would do calling. We'd get together and have a whole bunch of friends just call people. We'd get a little script up, and we would tell people to vote, and tell people who to vote for and why Daniel's awesome. He got to talk about how awesome he is to people too, so I guess that's kind of fun. But we went knocking door to door. We did a whole bunch of stuff that was just trying to get the community to know that they can vote. So you get to know all the people in your community. We actually made friends with someone in our apartment complex, and he sent us some DVDs to try to watch some movies because he was mad that Daniel had never seen Neverending Story. So we ended up making like really close friends in our neighborhood. It's cool. So here's the end, and this is the reason why I was talking about failure. So this was the end. This was our party that we had. We had all of our really close friends that had been behind us the entire time. And we got to find out that the numbers were not in our favor for him to win. We got 23% of the vote in a very, very red district. We were proud of that. I mean, that's a pretty good number. But we were having this party, and this really great thing happened. I was talking to my friend JT Everhard, and I knew that the numbers were probably not going to work in our favor, and I was like, we need to keep Daniel encouraged, and we need to do something. And he was like, I know exactly what to do. So he got together Dave Silverman, Matt Delahunty, and Hemant Mehta, and they all did a live show for Daniel when the numbers came in. They all did a live show, so we told Daniel, sit down, sit down, sit down. He's like, what are you guys doing? We're like, sit down, watch this. And we put it on the TV, and they all encouraged him to continue to run. They all told him how important this was for our community and for our movement, and how they hope other people will be encouraged to do such a thing. And it was actually really moving. There were a lot of tears in that room. We were very, very proud of what we had done. But the thing is, I learned how important failure is, because now we know what not to do. Now we've got a good web of connections and networks, so we can do it even better next time. We know the right people to talk to about stuff. But most importantly, this is how we're going to be the best people we can be. And I remembered this really great quote, and Daniel's laughing that this is one of my favorite quotes, but it's from Michael Jordan. He says, I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. And we need to start coming out of our comfort zone. We need to start being out. We need to start being open. And we need to start letting people know that we exist and we have a voice and we have opinions. And we might lose some friends along the way, but what has happened in my life, at least, as being an open and opinionated person, I've had people say, you're gonna burn in hell, I can't be friends with you anymore, ah! Guess what happens a couple months later? They come back and they're like, I'm really sorry. I went too far. My mom has done it. My sister has done it. My best friend did it. A lot of people were mad at me, and now we can talk to each other again. But also, it was no big deal. I had lots of friends and family too. Like, I made a family of people that I actually agree with on things. So it's okay to be open and honest. It can be tough, but you can do it. So I hope that this encourages a lot of you guys to maybe come out of your comfort zone a little bit more and maybe get more involved. And Daniel can tell you to do stuff if you don't want to be talking on a podium. He has a lot of ideas for how you can volunteer. But I really hope that you guys will choose to fail a couple of times for the movement. So thank you. I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know
thanks,
how.
Shayrah. And if anybody
know
has
how.
some questions for Shayrah, please just keep them brief and concise.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, At the very beginning of your presentation, you mentioned some videos on YouTube, I think, by somebody named Mitch.
Yes.
Is there a last name that goes with that?
He goes under Prof MTH on YouTube. Problem is, he took down almost all of his amazing videos, and I've gotten on him about this a billion times, but he does still have some stuff on there.
Okay.
But it's capital PROF, capital MTH. And he's actually a professor in New York. He was a Catholic growing up, and he was a gay Catholic, and gay Catholics don't get a lot of love, so he eventually left the church and became an activist and married his husband, and they're happily married in New York together.
So it was Prof and then
Capital MTH.
MT. Thank you.
Yes.
So at the beginning, you said that you were going to do, what started you down this road, you were going to do a report and you found that there is no hell in the Bible.
Yes.
So I'm going to show my ignorance here. Really?
Yes, it's really fabulous. If you actually look into the language of the Greeks and the Hebrews, they did not have the word hell. That word hell didn't come out until maybe the 1500s, maybe the 1800s. That word does not exist in the Bible. What you have is a bunch of metaphors, and in the Jewish text you might see the word Sheol. But what Jesus had said was if you don't follow him, you're going to go to Gehenna. Now, Gehenna is a location south of Jerusalem. It still exists. It's a beautiful garden now. But back in the day, it was this incinerator where they would throw dead things or junk or garbage. And there's like a sulfur pit there. So it smelled really bad. There was fire. And there were, I believe, some religious culty type people who would throw kids in there and like beat on drums, and you'd hear screaming and stuff. So it was a horrible, horrible place back then. Now it's a beautiful garden. But it was a horrible, horrible place back then. Jesus was speaking in metaphors. And as I like to try to tell people about Jesus, he is very hyperbolic, and he always speaks in riddles. So he's never ever saying what you think he's saying, and he specifically says that he does it that way. He even tells that to his followers. He's like, I speak in parables. This is how I do stuff. So it's really surprising that a lot of people haven't got, they say that they're personal friends with him, and I'm like, you don't even get like the main thing about him. So how are you personally friends with him? So, but yeah, it is not actually in the Bible. You'll find other words to represent it. I actually did a video about this. It's, what was it titled again? It's Do Atheists Choose Eternal Torture? And so I go into all of the words and all of the grammar and all that stuff, so if you're ever interested in that, you can actually find it under Shayrah, Shayrah, it's my YouTube channel. I haven't done it in a long time. Politics takes up a lot of your time, but yeah, if you want to check out that video, you can. Is there anything else?
All right. Give a hand for Shayrah again.